Today is Wednesday, 1st of February, 6:15. There's a Venus low towards the south and west. Jupiter, not quite as bright, in the southwestern part of the sky. We, of course, have a very fulsome moon. I think it's about 3 or 4 days to full, and Mars is up virtually overhead. Now, why would I possibly be out observing on a night like tonight? Well, it's just that JIC, I've been having a lot of problems with deep sky imaging of galaxies. They just have not been coming in, and that was occurring even before the moon got to be an issue. So, as I've speculated, there's so much atmospheric water vapor that anything that is in very slight contrast to the background sky is lost. Now, I did get a very spectacular image of M42, the Great Orion Nebula, under these circumstances, but it's a fairly high contrast deep sky study. And the question I'm having now is there an atmospheric problem here whenever it gets too cold? And I did not have an imager last January and February to be able to determine whether or not there were issues with either atmospheric water condensation or whether there's some problem with the REV II imager CCD circuitry when the temperatures get low. And because we had such a difficult fall with very low temperatures and lots of overcast, I never had a chance to watch the transition between the warmer parts of the fall to the colder parts that started occurring late in November. But I'm going to show you something here. Right now I'm faintly seeing the core of M33, the Triangulum galaxy, right there, just barely seeing the core. And I recall seeing far more of it in, I believe it was in December. But I bailed on it because there was a bit of a moon, and I wanted to wait until conditions improved to actually get to the point where I did a full exploration of M33, the Triangulum, all other galaxies that I wanted to get. And of course the weather just made it impossible, but you can see it right there. There's the core. It's not quite sky dark yet. I am going to turn it on some of the more higher contrast galaxies like M74 and 77, and we'll see what we get. So that's my intro for tonight. And there may not be much more coming out of this observing session, or recording session. Okay, have a look here. This is I believe I selected 74. Let me look at the screen. It could be 77. Ooh, it's not showing on the screen. Anyway, this is more of this galaxy that I've seen in quite a while. I'm going to go ahead and check the settings, however, because I may have left them at a lower flood rating so it was easier to center up stars, etc. for alignments, because the alignments are starting to get pretty good on the mount. I've really been dialing in the azimuth and the declination much better. In fact, when I did my first star alignment, it actually ended up almost virtually in the center of the finder scope field. But at least now we're beginning to see a galactic core here, even though the moon is at 3/4. Okay, actually I had it set on 16 flood, so seeing the galactic core at 16 flood was basically the same image you might get through a 6-inch telescope optically. This is M74, it's a galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 9.4, very large, 10 by 9.4 arc minutes, 35 million light years distant, and we are seeing spiralicity here on the screen, which is blowing me away because I have not seen this for quite a while. Even though there is a pretty advanced moon, the sky has somehow changed. Something has changed to allow me now to actually begin to see the kind of faint detail in the galaxy. Look at those spiral arms shooting off in every direction. This is practically a face-on spiral galaxy. And look at the spiralicity. I am very impressed. And there is, of course, that moon. And it is pretty cold tonight. Not as cold as it was last night. I got out for a little bit last night, but it was like 10 degrees out, so I bailed. But here we go, M74. Let's have a look at 77 before we return to the M33. I am impressed, and it isn't even quite dark yet, and there's a moon. Zowie. Okay, our next study is M77, Messier 77. And wow, images is starting to form now. Let's see that. I doubt that's the galactic core. That's just a very bright star, but you can see a galaxy very close to it. And because we're on 256 flood, it's going to take quite a few seconds in image stacking before those stars start to pointillize. So let's give this baby a chance to formulate itself. This is a brighter galaxy, I believe, than Messier 74. I'm going to shift down to the 4 here so I can get a better view of this baby. And give it a chance to formulate. Here, I'm going to bail for the time being, and then I'm going to come back to it. I cannot believe that might be the galactic core. That's brilliant. So we're going to have to re-inspect this. Hold on. Let me center it up one more time. Particulars on M77. By the way, I have just bailed on this notion of having a faint screen illumination. It just was not cutting it. It didn't matter anyway because I'm using the monitor screen here. So you can see now I've got it set to what is called the dawn settings for brightness. This is Messier 77, galaxy in Cetus, magnitude 8.9. Smaller, but also face on than M74 was, 7.3 by 6.3 arc minutes, 60 million light years distant. So this brilliance you're seeing on the screen could very well be the galactic core. In fact, it's not saying it's a spiral galaxy. It may, in fact, be an elliptical, a massive elliptical galaxy. Look at the brilliance of it. Now, I'm not seeing any spiral arms. There's just this tremendous radiance compacted onto the screen. You can see some glow going off towards this and the other direction there. So, given the apparent size of it, though, we're not seeing spiralicity. So I'd have to conclude that this is probably an elliptical galaxy, and I'll have to look it up. Anyway, it is brilliant, just brilliant. Now, I did see fainter luminosities in attendance, and those could be satellite galaxies, but if you look right here, you see probably what is an H2 region, or possibly a neighboring satellite galaxy to M77. Very impressive. Results with M74 and 77, I'm feeling pretty hopeful that we're actually going to see the spiral face-on galaxy M33, a member of our local group of galaxies. It's located in Triangulum, also known as the Triangulum Galaxy. Magnitude 5.7, twice as large as the sun or the moon in the sky, 68 arc minutes by 41, 3 million light years distant, so not much more distant than the Andromeda Galaxy. Now, as I said, it's a face-on spiral. Let's see if we can get the whole screen filled with the spiral arms H2 regions and possibly clusters. Watch the image form here. Oh yeah, very clearly. Now, we're not centered. You can see the core of M33 right there, and you can see spiralicity going off in a clockwise direction. I'm going to go ahead and center it up. But here we are. We're seeing as I saw it briefly about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago. Clearly, there's bright H2 regions of star formation. There's lots of detail. And it doesn't pop out as much as I might hope, but it is quite extensive with a great deal of texture. So let me go ahead now and center it up, the core of the galaxy, so we can catch as much as is possible. Okay, now here we go. I've pretty much centered up the core of the galaxy and synchronized to it. What we have here is a galaxy that spills way outside the field of view. In fact, let me give you an idea. The field of view is about 20 arc minutes. It's 68 arc minutes in size. So if you were to really do image stacking and everything else, what you would see is a spiralicity that goes out to about right there and up there. So we're seeing only the central 15 to 20 arc minutes of the galaxy as it appears, as it would appear. Now it would be nice if the REV II unit wasn't over magnifying, which it does. I'd really prefer to have a 1 degree field of view and then use it with the focal reducer in place. And then when I was doing globular clusters and small galaxies, remove the focal reducer. A 1 degree field of view is just about ideal for doing deep sky, initial deep sky surveys and images, and then honing in. But this is the Triangulum galaxy. Now, keep in mind, we've got a very bright moon out there. So if I move the camera back, maybe I can just catch it so that the entire spiralicity in the field is visible. Unfortunately, this monitor screen is very sensitive to contrast and brightness. It's just got that one bar, and when you put the dark bar just below whatever you're looking at, you get the brightest and highest contrast. So I'm going to sweep up slowly. Look at all that nebulosity. All right, impressive for the kind of moon we're having right now. Carpe Noctem out with NGC 891. I've already given a view of this under post-full moon conditions. I think it was 1 or 2 days after the full moon. It's a galaxy in Andromeda, one of my favorites, because unlike 74 and 77 in the Triangulum galaxy, this baby gives you a view edge on. It's large, 13 by 2.8 arc minutes, a spiral galaxy, 29 million light years distant. And this is the view we're getting tonight, and I've had a better view. Frankly, I'm discovering I do not like imaging with the camera when I'm facing west. For some reason, the screen gives a very poor view vis-a-vis the camera when the telescope completely flips over. But there you can see the Edge-on galaxy. The dark band isn't quite as high contrast as it was in that earlier view. But it is a nice comparison view to what I've had earlier under moonish conditions during the lunacy. And it gives us an idea of what you might expect to see. Now I have to point out, part of the aperture may be blocked by the roof at this point, but not very much. But this is one of my most memorable galaxies that I love viewing. It's in Andromeda, very close to Perseus. Edge-on, NGC 891. And so with that, I'm going to say Carpe Noctem and knock off for the evening. Thank you for participating. I enjoy sharing all of these studies to the degree that I get a good view of them with fellow astrobuds. Carpe Noctem.